all of you, and welcome to the session. And what we will try and do today is that we'll try and cover the various aspects of entry into the National Defense Academy. Now, first and foremost, I think I personally believe, and this could be a point of view which could be slightly biased, though, that I think it is one of the most exciting options available to young adults in this country. I think it mixes, marries, and blends different aspects. So one, it's a profession which is very noble. You get into a service where you're able to contribute positively and make an impact for your country. Second, I think by the nature of it, it's a profession which always keeps you very young, very fit, very sort of in an adventurous mode. And third, today, and thankfully, in terms of the perquisites, in terms of salaries, in terms of the remuneration, I think it compares with probably one of the best jobs in the private sector as well. So today, what we will do is we will just take the next 15-20 minutes and try and run through the various aspects of the National Defense Academy, Khadakwasla, Pune, the NDA procedure. Okay. Now, without wasting much time, let's proceed to the next slide. Okay. Now, brief agenda is one, what is NDA? That's what we are going to cover. Second, the exam is on 22nd of April this time. So NDA, as most of you may know, happens twice a year. So every 6 months roughly is when the exams happen. So we will figure out the important pointers as far as the test for NDA is concerned. And then, of course, how can Merit Nation help you in your endeavor? So we at Merit Nation, we are India's largest student community, and continuously we wish to constantly keep on doing stuff which makes life comfortable for students in general. So that's what we are going to do, and that's the agenda which we are going to cover over the next maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So NDA, as you know, is National Defense Academy. So we'll move on to the next slide. Just give me a second. Okay. Now, three different components. So NDA is your entry route, is your earliest direct entry route today if you want to get into either the Indian Army, Indian Navy, and Indian Air Force. So these three disciplines put together constitute the Indian Armed Forces. So these three together as a part of Indian Armed Forces is again through NDA, and Naval Academy is a specialized branch which is a 4-year course which is in Kerala in Kannur, which typically is only targeted for it's equivalent to a BTech course after class 12th. So for which again there's a separate course you do at Naval Academy, but the entrance is definitely as same. It's through the NDA entrance process. Okay, so now we come to the eligibility in terms of what the eligibility requirements for NDA are. The age has to be between 16 and a half to 19 years. So that gives you the rough window when you are in your class 12th till about a year or two thereafter. So in this time frame, you can apply for NDA. Total number of seats are 208. So this is for the Army. Now we go back to the previous slide. As we said, first service is Army. So Army, 16 and a half to 19 years, 208 seats, and requirement is 12th. And the rank at which you join, the entry rank is the lieutenant. Okay, now just to also touch upon the broad structure. So it's a two-part process. The two-part process is, rather I would say it's a three-part process. First is the NDA test, which you need to write. We are today discussing that as the main part. People who are shortlisted, the candidates also appear for the SSB, which is the Services Selection Bureau. So which is again a very comprehensive process involving the physical aspect of it, the one-on-one, the psychological, the interview, post which, if you clear, you appear for your medical, and accordingly you can join any of your chosen field. So as far as army is concerned, 208 seats, you start with the rank of lieutenant. And this is how, if you see the next screen, I'm saying here your progress, if you see from the rank of lieutenant here, you keep on moving the various rank. And if you look at on the rightmost column, if you look at these salary levels, you will not fail to notice that these salary levels are commensurate with the best in the best in the industry. So that's as far as the army is concerned. You start at a lieutenant, move on to captain, major, lieutenant colonel, colonel, and ultimately you get to the top of the table when you tomorrow become the chief of the army staff or you become a general. Similarly, I'm saying we will now look at what Indian Navy offers. Obviously, the requirement for army is much higher. In Navy, the requirement is 60. The specific difference being that you need not just class 12th, but you need class 12th with maths and physics. So army, even if you don't have physics and maths or you don't have science, you are eligible to apply for the army. But for Navy, you need to have maths and physics. Again, the entry age remains pretty much the same, and the rank is slightly different. Now let's look at what the ranking in Navy is, as in where do people start. So here you start as a sub-lieutenant, which is commensurate with the lieutenant in the army. Movement is a lieutenant, lieutenant commander, commander, captain, commodore. And like it culminates in a general, here it culminates in the admiral. Salary structures are exactly the same, and they are as good as anybody else in the private sector as well. So that's as far as your desired course of action is Navy. Now, last but not the least, the Indian Air Force. Again, the requirement, if you notice here, is physics as well as maths. So ages are 16.5 to 19, as we discussed. It's for all the three services. Number of seats are 92. Now, salaries, of course, we have talked about. Salary structure is the same. The ranking here is different. It starts from a flying officer, moves on to flight lieutenant, squadron leader, wing commander, group captain, air commodore, and like a general in the army or an admiral in the Navy, it finishes with air chief marshal in the Air Force. So that's as far as the structure and the growth prospects are concerned. Okay. Naval Academy, we said it's a separate course. Again, requirement 12th with physics and maths. Number of seats are lesser. So it's a different wing. Okay. Now, here are a few dates you may want to notice sort of carefully. So as we discussed, MBA and NDA happens twice a year. So one is happening on 22nd of April, which is exactly about 12 days from now. And the next date of exam is 9th of September. So another 6 months from now is the next date for NDA. Those who are unsuccessful can try again, provide they meet the eligibility norms of age and other concerns. Now, the notification for the next one is going to be released in June. That's in the first week of June. Okay. Now, people who are going to write the exam in 2 weeks from now, as well as people who wish to write the exam later ahead in September, here are a few points which you need to note down carefully. So if you look at the scheme of examination, now if you look at this table here, which is visible on your screens, now if you look at the breakup is 2.5 hours is mathematics and 2.5 hours is the GAT. That's the general ability test, which essentially comprises all the other areas which are tested in the exam. So the difference is you get the same time, but there are lesser number of questions. To be precise, there are 120 questions to be solved in maths and 150 questions to be solved in GAT. And if you also notice that the maximum number of marks in maths are 300. So that means is that every question in maths is 2.5 marks, whereas every question in the GAT is 4 marks. That's why you have 150 into 4 is 600. So 900 is the written test total possible score. That's for stage 1. And in the SSB, there is another 900. So in the end, provided you meet the basic minimum requirement for both, holistically, you are given a composite score, and that determines your ranking as far as the selection of forces is concerned. All right. Now, this is to give you a brief idea about what kind of cutoffs are required to meet the basic eligibility norms. So if you look at it, let's say if we look at from 2015, which is at the bottom of the table, till 2017. So if you see, the range is 300, 269, 288, 342. So it's kind of safe to assume, that you need a ballpark of about 300 odd marks. I will just excuse myself for a second. I think it's much colder in here, so I just may have to sneeze intermittently, and I'll ask for your pardon in advance. So coming back to your cutoffs, it says 306, 342. Now, this is the kind of number, this is the kind of score which you need to get. So if you look at it, out of 900, it is somewhat safe to assume that at least a 40% total score with at least 20, 30 or 25% minimum requirement. So I think a ballpark would be 30% in each subject, and 40% overall is kind of the bare minimum requirement for you to qualify stage 1. And the other point to be kept in mind is that it's not just your qualification, because in your overall merit list, it is a composite score of written test as well as SSB. Therefore, the higher you score in written test, it'll help you drastically to ramp up your rankings as far as the overall rankings are concerned. Okay. So 40%, 50% is what you need to sort of target in each. Negative marking of 1/3 is there, which is there in all multiple choice questions. So if this is basically what we say is kind of your game plan to go, 40% is the bare minimum, but then you are safer if you're looking at 50% marks in each subject, and since you have a negative marking of 1/3, I think if you are able to do 70 to 80 questions with 90% accuracy, you can play around with these numbers mildly. I think that should put you in good stead. So what comes in maths? So these are the areas, if you see, which are going to be tested in mathematics. So these are all the areas which you have studied predominantly in your class 11th and 12th. And I think it is going to be fairly critical and important that you are able to revise and study these topics again. So this is to give you a perspective in terms of number of questions. So this is a rough breakup taken over the last 3-4 years, just to give you a trend. So if you see, the most important area turns out to be algebra. Now, a typical question as in what constitutes algebra is there in a lot of students' minds. So algebra would wherever you deal with variables, wherever you deal with the aspects where you need to calculate, so wherever you deal with x effectively is your algebra. And here are the other topics like matrices and determinants, trigonometry, differential equations, integral, so on and so forth. So yeah, most of it is done in class 11th and 12th, and if you have been fairly consistent with that, it should be all right. General ability, again, it covers your English, history, geography, Indian polity, economics, general sciences. Now, general sciences would mean your physics, chemistry, etc. And a certain weightage is also given on the current events. So here, this is what the trend is. If you look at the similar trend, so here English has the maximum number of questions, followed by general sciences. So this number varies from 45 to 50. Last exam it was 50. And remember, this entire section, every question is of 4 marks, whereas in mathematics, every question is of 2.5 marks. So this is broadly to give you a perspective of what to expect as far as the written test is concerned. Okay. Now, coming straight to the point, that I'm sure a lot of you, in fact, this is an exam written by lakhs and lakhs of students every year. And it is one of the more coveted exams in the country. And it's conducted by the UPSC. So it's in that sense one of the creamy exams of the country. Now at Merit Nation, what we would want is that all the students who are going to be writing the exam on the 22nd of April, how can we help you for now, and how can we help you for the next exam? So how can Merit Nation help you crack this exam? What Merit Nation is currently offering is, we are giving you, now whatever we offer is completely free of cost here as far as NDA is concerned. So to give you an idea is, we are giving you sample papers wherein we provide 5 sample papers of mathematics, and we provide 5 sample papers of the GAT. So these sample papers will give you a great exposure. A lot of them will be completely on the model as to how the actual NDA is, and it'll provide you the much needed practice for you to be able to deliver your best foot forward on the exam day. So we provide you 5 sample papers of each areas. Besides this, we give you 5 practice papers of each subject. Now, once you've seen the sample papers, you need to move the tempo and you need to gear yourself and write the exam this year. So for that, we have the practice papers. And to give you a perspective of how it actually has been, we give you the solutions of previous years' papers. So we not only give you the previous year's papers, but we provide you the solution of previous year's papers. Now, these 3 things put together hopefully should give you sufficient practice, and all of us at Merit Nation hope, pray, and believe that you will be able to do a great job on the exam day. So, friends, that's what it is from our side. It's the time to put the medal to the metal and just go ahead and do and give your best shot. And this is what we always hope and pray for our students. And it's a great career, and we all pray that all of you do a great job as far as the exams are concerned on the 22nd of April. So I will sign off, and in case, I will wait for a couple of minutes in case there are any queries, and I would love to take it. Otherwise, in a couple of minutes, we will just sign off and wish you good luck again and Godspeed to all of you.